but really getting to know ourselves again. I think that's incredibly important because at the end of the day, we can feel it, whether it's the skincare, whether it's the supplements, whether it's the amount of sleep, the food we eat, the relationships we have. Deep down, we can feel what is good for us and what is not. I live by that.
I'm Riley Reese. This is the Sofia Unfiltered Podcast, where we bring together thought leaders, wellness entrepreneurs, makers, and emerging health leaders. We're here to have raw, unfiltered conversations because sharing your stories has the power to change lives, help others heal, and transform the way we take care of ourselves. Here we go. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sofia Unfiltered. I'm your host, Riley Reese, and joining me today is Dr. Jenelle Kim. She's a 9th-generation master herbalist. She's a doctor of acupuncture and traditional oriental medicine and a practitioner of Qigong. Dr. Kim, thank you for joining us. We're excited to sit down and chat.
Thank you so much for having me, Riley. I'm so honored to be here.
Yeah, likewise. So, Dr. Kim, for our audience, can you maybe just go into a little bit of your background and tell us a little bit about yourself for those who may not know you?
Of course, I'd love to. So I am actually a 9th-generation doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. There's many different, over the years, kind of ways to go about it, but ultimately a doctor of traditional oriental medicine, and specifically in herbal medicine, which I'll go into in a moment, of how I formulate products for companies carried around the world and where that stems from. I'm also a practitioner of Qigong, or Myangsang moving meditation, which is the type of movements and techniques that I teach from my lineage. Practitioner of the Tao, as I say, which leads me to very exciting. About almost 2 years ago now, I launched my first book, Myangsang, The Korean Art of Living Meditation, which is published by Watkins, distributed by Penguin Random House, which was always a dream of mine. And that goes into the philosophy of everything. And ultimately, all of this, which has been handed down my lineage for 9 generations. I'm the first woman, by the way, and the first to ever put it out into the world in such a public way. All of these teachings, if you will, the formulations, the movement, I talk about them in the understanding, the foundation of 3 pillars, which I call the 3 M's: medicine, meditation, and movement. So I'm sure we'll dive into that. But ultimately, if you boiled it all down to the root, those would be the 3 main branches that come out of how we can live a life of longevity, optimal beauty and wellness. And that does not just include the beautiful formulations, which of course I feel very strong about, that we put onto, or the supplements we put into our body, but it's also our mindset and it's the way we actually move. So that's what I teach.
Oh my gosh. So 20 years in the beauty industry,
Yes.
You are a custom formulator. You have products in from the Ritz, the Four Seasons, like all of the things. So
Right.
tell us a little bit about where did all of this start? Obviously, this is you said you keep saying your lineage. So I'm assuming this has been in your family for years.
Yes. Many generations, centuries, that is. But ultimately, for me, it is something that, I've come to find more recently than ever before, where it really hit me, the gratitude I have and the commitment, where my duty comes from, that I feel so compelled to share as much as I can. I know that's not always the case for so many people, and I take that incredibly seriously. However, having said that, interestingly, this is not the path that, was kind of carved out for me from the moment. Well, in the stars it was, I say, but the reality of my life, it's not like I was raised and, my father was my greatest teacher. I do speak about him in the book that I said. That was my way of kind of starting to share where some of this knowledge came from, most of it, and where he studied in the mountains of East Asia and Korea with his master and so on and so forth. It's like the movies, but that's actually how it is. When I was born and when I grew up, when I was a few years old, he never said to me, this is what you have to do. It was just a part of my life. It's very natural. And I really do, when I reflect and think back, now being 40 some years on this earth, I recognize I think that was so important, in my humble opinion, especially now that I have children, that it really did. I was able to make it my own, which is part of the philosophy and the living meditation that I even share with everyone. So I was born, I was the first daughter. So my life was pretty traditional, or strict, as you will have it, academically and otherwise. And so I was actually on board to studying Western medicine, kind of fast forwarding here. although all of these practices, the 3Ms have been a part of my life, that's where I was headed. And it was when I was about 19, 20, it really was like that light bulb that went off. You hear that story, that certainly is my story, where I saw a few things, a few people's conditions, that, to be more specific, that could not be treated by anything that we are familiar with, in the West and in the modern world per se. But I saw what Eastern medicine did. And that's the first time it really hit me in a different way, even though I've saw it many times in my life, that I really need to do something with it. So really, it was like I made up my mind, set forward, and took my very first leap of faith. And that's why I started studying Eastern medicine. I thought one day I'd go back, but that hasn't been my destiny so far. I've stayed on this path. And so yes, I don't know how in depth we want to go, Riley, but I suppose I'll take it a step further here, is that I went to Eastern Medical School, of course, also and a few other very great teachers, my father being, as I said, my most significant, to say it in the least. And that's kind of how we shared our medicine way back when, where dermatologists or internal medical doctors or, people just come to us for the understanding of, certain formulations or movements or meditations that could help. And there was one doctor in particular who started saying to me, she was a dermatologist in the skincare, kind of arena, I wouldn't even say industry. And she's the first person who said to me, Jenelle, I've never seen formulas work in this manner for troubled skin, for anti-aging. You have to do something with this. And that is one of the catalysts finally that hit me again, where I decided, okay, my whole life I thought I'd have clinics, but maybe I should look at it. And this is the main point of what I wish to share, as the world is a clinic. So that's where I started getting into formulation. And now I have JBK Wellness Labs with my husband. We've been doing this for over 20 years. He runs the business side. I do, of course, the formulation, the education with my incredible team at JBK Wellness. And we manufacture, as you said, we formulate, manufacture for brands carried around the world. And we were the very first, one of the first in the natural products industry, certainly in like the Korean or East Asian beauty industry, truly wellness, taking supplements and soaks. So I'm very proud of that. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm still just at the beginning of what I hope to share with the world. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. So Dr. Kim, you mentioned that this dermatologist came in and said, you need to start packaging this. What specifically, what was that trigger? What was she using? Was it a product? Was this?
Yes, absolutely.
Herbs?
Yes. So at the time, it was topical in particular, but we did combine different formulations, but they were herbal. So what's been passed on in my lineage, I don't know if I said this specifically, is that herbal medical knowledge. So herbology, right? And so true herbal medicine, we can have a whole podcast just on that. But it really is, of course, the understanding of the plant medicine, of the herbs. There's so many herbs. Most, if not all medicine in some way, shape, or form comes from plants, right? And so to study each individual herb is so incredibly important. I went to school for so many years studying to be a doctor of acupuncture, Chinese medicine equals herbal medicine. But one of the things that I educate all over the world about and is one of the most important parts of herbal medicine is the formulation aspect, the understanding of synergy between ingredients. So that's really what has been passed down in my lineage for so long. And there's a plethora of formulas, if you will, that I'm kind of the guardian of. And many of them are topical beauty products. So when I gave these formulas to this particular doctor and others, they weren't necessarily branded by any means. And quite frankly, they were nothing compared to what I create now. They did not smell as beautiful. We didn't have all the beautiful emulsifiers and, the all natural and clean, essential oils and scents. So we would just give formulas that we knew were incredibly effective. And particularly, she was treating troubled skin and just saw, as well as other kind of skin imbalances, let's just put it that way, that are very hard to treat. And she was seeing phenomenal results. And that's why she felt compelled to bring it to my attention.
Yeah, that's incredible. So you were looking at troubled skin, and I'm sure you were like, oh my gosh, this is really helping people. Yes. And so where did it go from there? Right. So you're like, I'm an entrepreneur. Let's start bottling and packaging.
Yes.
Making pretty.
Absolutely. Well, I really hope that hopefully this is helpful for, whoever it can possibly be helpful with, this part of my story, because And I think I've already communicated that a bit, that there were several times in my life where I was committed. I set my mind and my heart. That's important to me. Also, how I was raised on these philosophies of life, that if I had not had the ability to go with the Tao, as I say, kind of see a greater perspective and be flexible while never losing myself, I would never be where I am right now. So I just want to put that out there for any of the entrepreneurs out there in the world, whether you are down the path or just beginning or just thinking about it. Because yes, after Eastern Medical School, like I said, I thought I was doing clinics, right? And so when she came to me and brought this to my attention, the first step was I started working with companies to help brand, market, I mean, everything from the bottom up. And that's also how I was raised. Know everything from the bottom up, every step along the way. Just know it. Always live that way too. It's incredibly helpful as a business owner. And so, so we started there, kind of helping specific companies. Again, these are some of the first that had natural products. Back there was such thing as clean beauty. Natural products were not even a thing. Now look at where we are.
Wow, you're like,
yes,
starting,
yes.
like the
no, it was a whole like
clean products. This is incredible.
Thank you, Riley. I appreciate that. And sometimes I do find it's important to stop and be in that moment for a moment to see, how far and how much further we can go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then we started with these particular brands that I'm thinking of in the spa industry. So that's where it was Four Seasons, Ritz-Carlton. And, we started out square one. And so I remember the first time my husband and I still talk about it because now we run our lab, which we have facilities around the world, manufacturing for renowned clients. But way back when, we remember the first pallet we ever sent out, And so so kind of fast forwarding, we did that for several years. And then right before I had my first son, which was about 12 years ago, 2011-ish, let's say, maybe it's a little more. But ultimately, we decided then, because people kept coming to us, they started to get to know us just by word of mouth, that we make beautiful natural products and they are incredibly effective. Because remember, and it still even exists, that natural products people look for, but they wonder about the efficacy. Well, we had incredible efficacy, again, for beauty, skin care, hair care, body care, but also very powerful supplements, right? For anything from muscle and joint health to digestion to detoxification, you name it. And so people started coming to us and wanting us to make products. And so once more, that's kind of the second huge leap of faith that my husband and I had. We took everything we had, which was not so much, and put it into making basically a contract manufacturing company, which the complete story is, and I'll make it short here, is that we actually thought we were going to start as an ingredient company. Creating the extracts of the herbal ingredients and putting that into the world, working with some of the big distributors, and it shifted even more. We had to pivot and start making actual products, and now here we are today. And so that's kind of you can see, I hope I've kind of created a visual almost of each path. Had I stopped and thought, no, that's not what I'm doing. No, I want to have clinics. We would never be here. Or no, I want to sell, the extracts of the herbal medicine. I wouldn't be here. So many times along that path, zoom out, as I say, and look at a greater perspective, I would not be where I am right now. And one of my most favorite parts is how much I go around and educate and share with people who have no idea, still have no idea that half of this even exists, and that's really special to me. So
yeah, absolutely. And I just want to take a minute, right, on this entrepreneurial journey.
Please.
How did you make those decisions, right, for all of the entrepreneurs who may be listening right now? So a lot of the practitioners who may be new, they may be out there, they may be looking at, I'm trying to start a service business, I'm trying to start a product business. A lot of the, practitioners out there in the health and wellness industry. How did you make those pivotal shifts as you got started? Because a lot of them may be thinking the same thing. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to become a naturopath. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. I'm going to work at a clinic. I'm going to start a clinic.
Right.
How did you make those decisions?
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. Clearly, if you look deeply into everything I've shared so far, the root and the intention, my goal, my purpose, whatever word you could possibly put on that, has never shifted, right? I have these incredible 3 pillars: medicine, movement, and meditation. And I knew that in my lifetime, I have to share that with people. So that has never changed, right? As the way in which it is going about, if I did not, And that's where that third pillar, when I say meditation, what I actually mean is living meditation. It's literally the book that I wrote. It's 8 keys, and they're ways of life. It's ways that you can look at any situation. I use these in business, as we're sharing right now, in parenting and relationships, you name it. And kind of the core of these 8 principles, these 8 keys, is exactly what enabled me and continues to every day enables me to make certain decisions, correct choices is what I call them, to see as clearly as I can a greater situation, right? So kind of answering more specifically, it's hard to put into a formula or a box, which as human beings, we all wish we could have at all times, and it doesn't work that way. That is the Tao, that is the universe and the flow of everything. But one thing, as I say, is number one, you stay rooted. You must know what it is that your ultimate purpose or goal is. And that's an important one. And that can shift sometimes too. But deep down, what matters to you? What matters to you and what do you want to bring into the world, right? That's kind of one of the foundational, that's the starting point. And then from there, start to train your mind. It's a training of the mind to see the options in front of you. And if something comes, you have to, that's part of the training too. Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we'll start to walk down a path and we'll know, maybe that's not the right one, but you have to feel that. You have to feel when you feel it's totally hit a wall or stagnant. You have to feel when, I have to push a little further. You can't. We hear it from everyone. You can never give up because it can be really complicated sometimes. But so long as we're already rooted, always rooted in that deep passion, especially in service, that's the truth. If it's just you alone for you, go for it. No one's judging. We all have free will. But when you do it for others, it constantly gives the spark, So I hope that answers. It's a little more, I can certainly bring it.
Yeah. No, I think that's incredible, right? Just making sure. And that's what we tell people too, right? Like, what is the fast forward years and where do you want to be? Yeah. And then kind of rewind it a little bit. But I think there's also, I think you mentioned, right, a lot of hard work, right? That goes into this no matter what you're doing. I think there's a lot of hard work and just kind of keeping that big picture in mind. I think that's just incredible advice.
Yeah, thank you, Riley. That's why I literally call it zoom out as one of the first keys, and the keys are the chapters in the book that we have to, no matter what situation we're in, take a breath, literally take a breath, because that alone calms our nervous system, calms our chi, whichever way our understanding resonates. Mm-hmm. Literally breathe in, out, take a pause. There's no excuse. You can do that anywhere at any time.
It's free. And it's free for everybody.
Breathing, exactly right. Free. That's exactly right. This is the truth. And then you kind of, my other 3s, because 3 is my lucky number. It's the kind of the way of the universe as well. I will get into that at the moment. But the other 3 is of how we put this into motion. I call the 3 A's. So I have the 3 M's, which are the pillars, and the 3 A's is how we put it into motion. And number 1 is we have to acknowledge. So often we don't even know, like I said before, what we want or what is in front of us or what are we feeling. You have to acknowledge and really see it. And it couldn't adjust, but what is it? Acknowledge what is in front of you. Number 2 is you assess. You have to kind of train your brain so you can quickly, and you get quicker and quicker at this most of the time. Sometimes it's you starting back at square one. Assess the options in front of you. For me, the first example, I can stay in clinic, which is a love of mine. I can start to work with these formulations. And then I was able to walk down that path a bit and see the people coming into clinic, the amount of people in my own life that I have seen have opened their eyes to this medicine and these new ways of wellness, beauty. I mean, it's unbelievable how far we have come. Unbelievable. I cannot even stress that enough. The doors used to be shut down in front of me all of the time, no matter where I was, and I didn't even take it that it was ill intent, or people were judged. I didn't even look at it that way. It was just to me that they just didn't know yet. But those are the 2 roads that I saw. And I decided the 3rd A is you have to act. You have to start moving down one. So often as human beings, we get stuck in that assessment phase. Right? Why am I feeling this way? Oh, all of these things. Okay, that's great. But if you go too far backwards, guess what? You're going to get stuck.
Yeah, analysis paralysis.
Yes, right? That's exactly right, Riley. Yes. And so the 3rd one is you have to act. Start walking down that path and be aware. Be aware. And yes,
and the answer will come. And it sounds like being open to what's out there too, right? Because you have no idea how it's going to work out.
Yes, and being innovative. It's important to constantly, especially in this business, but really any, when I'm going to take a moment and make sure. But if you really want to be a leader in this life and do something different, it doesn't have to be huge. It can be something small and make a difference. You have to think and be creative and work from your heart and,
But work. and act.
Oh,
And I think it's huge, right? I mean, I think
100%.
you can dream all day long, but I think
Yes.
a lot of times people get stuck in that creation and acting phase. And I think it's
Yes.
just, start doing a little bit every day. You have to just start.
Yes.
I love your 3 A's.
Riley, I love that. Yes. Good. I'm so glad. And it literally is one step in front of the other. I say that one about habits that we have. I say that about work. I love that you said that. I teach my own boys this all the time. I don't care how old they were. 3 years old, I was telling them this. There are no shortcuts. No matter what you do in this life, you have to work hard. You have to put your heart and mind into it, and you have to work hard and be consistent and have follow through. Right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so
Yes.
you just said. And
Yeah. We're on the same page.
I know we are.
Because I just look at all the new practitioners, right? I mean, fast forward and you've built this amazing business, but all the new acupuncturists coming out, like
unbelievable.
all the people, all this health and wellness industry. And it's like, they can look at you and be like, wow, how would I ever get there if I wanted to make products? Like, look at you, you put all this work in and you're a master formulator. They may be a little bit like, oh, I don't have the lineage. I don't have this. It's easy to compare and then go into analysis paralysis. Right.
So every one of us has something so special to give. Every single one of us. And every one of us comes from a lineage and legacy. That's the funny part that we don't always think about. And it's not such a part of our Western kind of culture. In East Asia, that is a part of it. It's just ingrained. But hopefully we can also help each other. For myself, for example, we help people create products. That is a very difficult thing to do if you do not know the right path to find, and furthermore, during the COVID years, which I suppose we're still talking about this, but it is important. It was a kind of a time that could have been stagnant, or you could have kept moving. And then I was able to start our private white label line for those who can't start custom products, because that takes a lot more money. Let's just be clear, and so those are ways that hopefully I am able to help others who wish to start this journey to share what they have to share with the world, and that's part of what I think my role is in this industry. For sure, is helping people to accomplish that, and we can help each other in our own individual expertise. What a beautiful,
whether it's a service or a product, regardless of what it is, this is incredible. Okay, so jumping back to products really fast. So you were in clean beauty, clean formula before this was a thing, right? And I feel like the Honest Company really kind of blew up. Like, hey, I want safe products. And tell me if I'm wrong. There are thousands out there. I go to the, I have a new son. I go to the EWG website all the time, so I know there are hundreds of other products but I feel like it didn't have, the industry really wasn't as visible until, but correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's exactly correct. Even I have to sit back and think. I remember when Honest Company came out.
2008-ish?
This is so cool. It has to be. Yes, because it was definitely a couple years after I had begun, and it was really exciting. And some of those very influential brands and companies, clearly they're still here, and they had a very good purpose, and they made a big splash, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, they made a big splash, but there are still so many people who have been doing this
totally
smaller. I mean, babies, like there's so many different industries, like the laundry, like all of this that needs all these formulas. I don't think it's been given that, the respect that it needs. I mean, we're still competing against big brands and using chemicals that are really harmful for us across the board.
Exactly right. Now, in the back, because I'm with all the experts of these fields of beauty and wellness, I must say that, we certainly are at a time now, though, that enough people are looking and pushing that even the big is they have to jump in now. It's happening. It does not matter who they are. I'm not going to name them, but I'm with some of those, teams, and everyone is certainly at least looking in that direction right now. But
it's
that
incredible.
poses another. Yes, it is so incredible, and I couldn't be more grateful. But I also have to acknowledge that then you have all the options, which is amazing. But now we have to decipher all of the options, right? So not everything is, there is not necessarily a one standard for clean beauty or clean wellness. They are looking into that right now. It's something I actually speak on, for even, I'm sure many of you have seen, even in the beauty industry and skincare, the FDA is trying to step in. And for us, that's wonderful, because we've done everything exactly as we should for, decades.
So the regulations kind of moving in, and people are trying to actually put stamps of approval on this. And I'm sure that means
That's
more
exactly right.
certificates coming for everybody who's in this manufacturing space.
Yes, and education, for myself, educating, and of course, always learning. That never stops. And for anyone, the consumer, let's call it, so important to be aware of the how can I say, the reality of a situation. Like even we speak of certain websites, as you just mentioned, where you can look at individual ingredients. Well, sometimes too, it's unrealistic where people go. So it's always the balance. I mean, everything I talk about, the 3Ms, everything is the balance. I said the Tao. It's always a balance. You know what I mean? Because we can't, I will never, even in the role that I play in this, hopefully in a powerful way by the time I leave this earth, I still really push for balance. You know, we can't make ourselves crazy either, because guess what? That's just going to make us more stressed.
Yep,
so
exactly.
There's more education, there's more awareness, you know, taking things into our own hands, looking to our experts, of course, but really getting to know ourselves again. I think that's incredibly important, because at the end of the day, we can feel it, whether it's the skincare, whether it's the supplements, whether it's the amount of sleep, the food we eat, the relationships we have. Deep down, we can feel what is good for us and what is not. I live by that. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. For all of our listeners out there, you know, what would you suggest for them for the supplements, formulations, right? You have access to obviously everything, but
Yes.
where do we turn? Where do we go? Just go to your website and start shopping. You know, what does this look like for consumers?
Yes.
And in this clean space, where do you go to look at other types of?
Yes. I mean, that's a hard thing. In the beauty industry, it is, you know, it's interesting because, as we even mentioned, it's a little different, but like here, Honest Company comes out and they kind of set a standard, if you will, right? So we have others in our world right now, in our market, in this part of the world at least, that, for example, our clients will come to us. And one of the things that we all speak on is the Credo kind of standard. Well, Credo, if you are not familiar, is an e-commerce as well as a brick and mortar, you know, store, and they follow. You cannot even be in that store unless you follow very strict standards, right? Whole Foods was one of the first to do this, and so these big companies, if you will, for lack of a better word, they have put together so wonderfully. So they have put together these standards that kind of everyone comes together and they look for that, right? We create formulations. So we have a lab in Europe. Actually, the European standards, many are starting to realize, if you didn't know already, that they have a much higher standard. So sometimes we'll even say, this is to the European standard. So it's those types of things, just because I really want to give tangible like advice now,
please.
that if you see the Credo standard, when you go to Whole Foods, when you go to some of these natural marketplaces, again, brick and mortar, like the actual go into the store or on the website, look a bit into them. What is their thing? What is their story? What's important to them? Because if you find these places, or experts such as myself kind of sharing what to look for, what ingredients, what not to look for, a lot of times it's the do not list. Whole Foods, I'm pretty sure, I've been in this so long, I forget sometimes, but Whole Foods actually is the list of things you cannot have. So they do it a little differently. But that ensures that when you go to these places, at least the products you're surrounded by are not filled with harmful chemicals, are not bad for you. And that is really important. And same for supplements. Do the same thing. That's my best advice in this moment that we have. You know, look at the stores that you're buying from, find out a bit about who they are, what they are. And if you start to trust them and different experts, now we have social media. That's wonderful. And also not so wonderful.
I was about to say, I'm very hesitant to say go to social media. You know, that's what we're fighting hard against, because it is a lot of really harmful information out there. You're getting it from people who are not accredited information. So yeah, that one.
Yes. Let me rephrase that, actually, Riley. I like that, because it's not so much social media. You can find the experts on social media. There's a big difference. We're not just like scrolling through a list to every last person who has X number of followers.
Yes.
Personally had to embrace this. It took me a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. Social media, that is, you know, sharing and being out there in the world. But then I realized, you know, it can be and is certainly a platform for people who do truly care, as a way to connect. And that is where social media, we can utilize it in the correct manner, is finding those experts, practitioners, beauty experts, wellness experts, whoever they are. And we all share a lot, with hopes that we are able to kind of quiet the noise, if you will, because there is a lot out there.
There's a lot of noise. Yeah, there's a lot of noise. I agree. I love that. Finding the experts online, trusting the store that you're shopping from. That's amazing. And just circling back. So you mentioned also for those entrepreneurs out there who, you know, maybe can't afford to do their own product line of the, you know, right out the gate, you have a white label option. So can you just quickly talk about what a white label means, and can you tell people what products they can white label?
Absolutely. So span, you know, there's other labs out there, but mine in particular, what we do is, so custom, let me start there real quickly, is normally you cannot start or create a product, if you will, without a minimum order quantity. Meaning if you have one product, really the lowest we ever go, sometimes we'll make test runs, if you will, for various reasons. But really the lowest you could go is 5,000 per one product. Well, that can get very expensive. But the reason behind that is that when you start to drop that quantity, it becomes very expensive too, because we, the lab, have to buy ingredients and packaging and all the things that could make that product at high quantities. So I hope that makes sense. It's an important piece that I definitely want people to understand.
Yes.
Good. Yes. To me, it's like I can sleep and think about this, but I know a lot of people, this is like another language, right? So let's start there. So then when you go to white label or private label, they're let's call them like stock formulas. The ones in my lab are over 20 years, some of my very favorite products. We don't have a huge wide array. The specialty is custom, but because so many people have asked throughout the years, it's actually, I'm so excited about it because these are a lot of times the products that sit on my bathroom counter, the new formulations that we are creating. And so it's a skincare, we have hair care, we have body care, some internal supplements, some muscle and joint products. And it's my hero, my favorite products. And what that means when I say they're white label is that brands can come to us, especially the clinics, especially the day spas, the med spas. So where you cannot necessarily yet create your custom formulation at 5,000 units per product, per SKU. Now you can buy it at 25. Literally, you can purchase 25 of these products, put your label on them. And there's some of my, like I said, the ones that I carry are some of my very favorite that have been passed down in my lineage that are incredibly effective, in my humble opinion. And the benefits for people to do this, there are so many. Very important to people is the margin. You don't have that middle person. And so you buy directly from the lab. And normally it's like you buy wholesale, you sell retail, you double. Well, you can imagine how much more you're making. Now, not necessarily the numbers one on my team, but we can visualize this together, that when you buy directly from the lab, your margin increases significantly. So every time you sell a product, you make a lot more. And for a lot of clinics and spas, that's really important. And not just, I have to say, for the success, of course, of you who own a spa or a clinic, but also so important for the home treatment of your patients or your clients, and so my heart goes there as well. Another really important piece for those who might be interested, and I feel very strongly about this, is that for anyone in the clinic, spa or day spa, for example, or any smaller kind of, or not smaller, but not part of the
Just brick and mortar.
Right, exactly. With e-commerce nowadays, it's important to carry brands that people know, right? But also the second you do that, you're caught in the whole competition with Amazon, with their own websites, with all of this. So if you have your own brand, they have to go to you to buy that. And so those are kind of two of the main, aside from the efficacy of the products and the clean, standards and all of that. So those are some of the reasons. And
yeah, I think this is incredible, right? So we have a lot of solo entrepreneurs and practitioners in the health and wellness industry, and now you're looking at, hey, they don't understand how to create a product or bring it to market, and now it's really as easy as we'll share Dr. Kim's website in the show notes, but I think it's really important to know that you actually have a way to go and design your logo, have them contact them, put it on products that are already made and proven to work. Do the research, of course, but proven to work, put it on there. 25 units is a low MOQ. You purchase it, and then you can put it in your store. You can put it right on Sofia Health, right on your own webpage, right? And sell direct to consumers that are shopping. Now, do you also do drop shipping or?
No, that's one thing we don't do. But over the decades that we've been doing this, we have some really great partners or people that we would just recommend that are fulfillment centers ultimately. So. Yes.
These are not only are you contributing and bringing these amazing formulations to the world, but you're also giving entrepreneurs a way to set up and create and add to their small business. And I think that's just,
I hope so. I hope so.
More amazing.
Thank you.
Dr. Kim, thank you so much for being here and sharing your expertise and sharing your story on how you got to where you are, and the 3 M's and the 3 A's. So we're going to capture both of them.
There you go. Tell me what you think. I can't break away from the 3. We can remember that.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for having me. And yes, anyone who ever wants to reach out just for questions, I'm here for you, A great place is, I'm sure you'll tell everybody, Riley, but I am on social media as well, Dr. Jenelle Kim. So that's a way that I can kind of communicate. So if you need anything, I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. And a question that we ask all the guests on the show, if you could, what are your 3 fundamental pillars
Oh,
that contribute to your well-being?
well, look at that, Riley. So, not so easy, but so easy for me because I already spoke about it. My 3 fundamental elements or pillars are medicine, movement, meditation. These are 3 things, 3 elements of life, from proper movement to medicine is eating properly, taking proper supplements. Topical is also included in that pillar, and meditation, which is living meditation. It's our way of mind. Without practicing those on a daily, on a minutely basis, I don't know how I'd survive. So that's my answer.
There you have it from Dr. Kim. And you guys can't see her amazing skin. So I'm
Oh,
going to start looking at these products myself. And she already told you can find her on Instagram. And then can you share the website as well? Or is it drjanellekim.com?
right. So my website is just janellekim.com.
Okay,
Yes.
reach out if you have any questions. But thank you for being here, Dr. Kim. We appreciate your time so much. Thanks so much for listening. This has been Sofia Unfiltered, a podcast by Sofia Health, the #1 marketplace for health and wellness. Find services, classes, and products from the top health and wellness providers. Book an appointment or join live classes now. I'm your host, Riley Reese. If this episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear about it in the comments section of your favorite podcast provider or with a 5-star rating. Let us know what your biggest takeaway from this episode was, or share it with someone you hope to inspire. Join us again next time for more real conversations, stories, and insights that help empower you with the knowledge and inspiration needed to transform how we care for ourselves.